Salutations, everybody. It is Matty here today, sitting down to talk about our favorite.
I still miss when he had the microphone. He was just holding it in his hand. That was my favorite. That was my favorite. What would we call it? Epoch of his stream, his arc. It was his mic stand was broken arc. It was my favorite arc of Matty.
Favorite Starfield. Now, things with Starfield have been pretty dry to start off the top of the year, and I think a lot of Xbox fans have been okay with that. We've been kind of busy, right? Developer Direct, we got Hi-Fi Rush, we know a Starfield dedicated Developer Direct is on the way, but the release date rumors are picking up, as does the restlessness.
I mean, and let me be clear, I've been, again, very, very skeptical of Starfield, but if that ends up being what it sounds like, which is like a 45-minute to hour-long showcase where it's just Starfield, and they quell all of our concerns and show like, okay, yes, we have a performance mode available on console. We have hired 6 times the QA staff to polish this game. We've also spent tons of time making sure the planets are extremely varied. So we're going to do this thing like maybe even they do a segment live where they have somebody come in and then randomly generate a number. They pick that planet and then they go there to show it off. Stuff like that. They could actually convince me that there's reason to be excited for this. And so far we've seen comparatively to like Hogwarts Legacy, we've seen very, very little of Starfield. So they could actually reasonably convince us and again, quell all of those fears. That's my hope is what they do, but we shall see.
People want to know more about this game, and because of that, we have information from CD Keys, Windows Central, as well as Reset Era, everyone's favorite. There are just so many rumors spiraling out of control. What I wanted to do in this video was round them up, knock them down, and sort of address the release date situation surrounding Starfield, because the reason this has started to pick up is thanks to the Developer Direct, where we saw pretty much everything we knew was coming in the first half get dated outside of Forza Motorsport. Now, Jeff Grubb on the Games Mess podcast actually sat down and said he feels pretty confident in saying that Forza Motorsport will be delayed to the second half of 2022. He didn't say when, but for us as Xbox,
and this is more convincing. Jeff Grubb, my understanding is he actually lives in Denver, which is very close to where I live. So he's a fellow Coloradan, you know, and I love to see that. And he has a very good track record. I mean, everybody agrees that when he says something, it's not just made up. He's actually hearing it from people on the inside. So he's up there with like Jason Schreier. He's got a lot of context. And he has said, I think the actual release date is still fluctuating, but don't be surprised if it ends up missing the first half for Forza. And people have, up until now, just thought that Forza was like a slam dunk. It's a racing game. The studio is very professional. They, I don't think, have really hit targets like this before. So very surprising that they might be getting delayed. But he's saying that this is looking like it could happen, which is very surprising.
Fans, this was a bit of a surprise because when you looked at everything coming in the first half of the year, the big question mark was really Starfield. And then the others we thought would be slam dunks, especially Forza Motorsport. That was the one that we all looked at and went, it's turn 10. Like, they're not going to miss their window. It's a racing game, bro. But it turns out they may. And because of that, now the first half has opened up a little bit more where folks are thinking, well, is June Starfield's slot now? Is that for sure? We have a lot of rumors to address in this video on top of speculation. So ladies and gentlemen, if you're new here, you're into Starfield news and information, consider subscribing. It would be much appreciated. Now let's dive deep into what's going on, beginning with CD Keys. This is where the rumor really started to pick up. And I was surprised by this, but it brought me back to the Fallout 4 days, because I remember people used to have fake listings on German websites that said Fallout 4, and people would come to me and be like, Matty, look, it's on this website. Is it real? And I'm like, websites
that still happens with GTA 6 all the time. People are like, oh, look at this. And they clearly like edited the HTML code with like F12. You just swap it out. Like, they've clearly done all of it. It's hilarious.
All the time. And I highly doubt that someone went to CD Keys on an official notice and said, hey, we're planning on shipping this game in, according to the website here, 3/23/23, so get ready to lock that one in. Xbox is not going to launch the game that they plan to build their brand around in the next month. I think if I were a betting man, I would happily take the bet that they're going to market this thing at least a little bit. The Hi-Fi Rush Shadow Drop has us a bit off balance right now, and in a good way. We don't know when something can strike. The surprise was so big. We're now looking at other first-party games going, what could Xbox do with these? And I think if you look at any first-party game, you got to look at Redfall, right? They put a date to Redfall. They're going to go through a marketing cycle for Redfall.
I'll insist. I'm actually, at this point, I've spent a lot of time thinking about it. I'm convinced that the shadow drop probably solves a lot of problems modern games have with their advertising, marketing, and hype problems. Because I think what happens, like if they just dropped without announcing it beforehand, Redfall, I think a lot of people would be like, oh, it's from the guys that, at Arcane. They did Dishonored and Deathloop, man, but they did Dishonored. Let's try it. And they would just download, they try it, and probably have a decent time. Like, they wouldn't have time to question it. They wouldn't have time to analyze it and be like, it looks kind of bland. I don't know what it is about it, but it's just not sitting right. They would just play the game. And for Game Pass, I think that word of mouth is more potent and powerful than an advertising campaign. I really do think that. Now, the question, of course, being, Starfield is no Redfall. Starfield is no Hi-Fi Rush. Starfield is supposedly the game, like the first huge Xbox Game Pass exclusive day one launch. So we'll see if they're willing to double down on it. But I wouldn't put it past them. Like I'm somebody that is actually convinced that Microsoft might be trying something pretty bold and new with this. And so I wouldn't dismiss it. I don't think it's likely that they shadow drop Starfield. I don't think it's likely really at all. I'd say it's definitely still 80% that they give us a clear announcement date a few months ahead and that they go and give it plenty of time to market. But I do think that there's a larger than a lot of people might acknowledge percentage chance that they do just totally blow up the internet by shadow dropping it. Because just imagine if we got like, okay, on March 23rd, there's going to be an Xbox showcase for Starfield. Awesome. Maybe that's where that date came from. Oh, that's great. Then we tune in, we watch it, and we're like, okay, this looks pretty good. I'm more convinced, but I'm still a little iffy. And then Todd says, and it's available now. The internet would explode. Like, instantly, Xbox's servers would all melt. There would be stories like, the Boston molasses flood. I think it was in Boston, where like a molasses factory had the vats break and then molasses flooded the streets and like drowned people in sugary hot goo. That's what would happen in their server farms. Like they would have entire servers just turn into goo and melt under the doorways, killing millions. Like it would start a pandemic. The world would end if they did that. But again, I don't think it's likely. Weird analogy, but okay.
The same thing. Of course, Todd Howard wants to keep that window short. We've gone over that ad nauseum. But I would not put much stock into CD Keys, who, by the way, is saying that this game is launching through the Bethesda launcher, and that's been closed down for over a year. Do not believe this one. But Jez Corden also spoke out about this rumor and actually added a little bit from his own sources. And that's where we get into the thick of things on what's going on with Starfield's release date rumors. Because, again, they are picking up dramatically as the community grows more and more restless. So let's read what Jez had to say. We have it on good authority that Starfield's launch date isn't yet set in stone. Speaking to us on condition of anonymity, trusted sources have told us that Starfield is now playable in full from start to finish. The game is truly vast, spanning multiple star systems. As such, the polishing effort is similarly gargantuan in nature.
So if the polishing effort this time around is more gargantuan than for Fallout 4, what are the odds that they polish it? Not great.
Bethesda's creation engine games feature spider webs of branching narratives, intersecting consequences, and overlapping systems. We will lean into the playability of start to finish in a moment here, but let's stay focused on the release date. So I can exactly corroborate what Jez is saying here about the uncertainty around the date. How can I corroborate that?
Is Jez short for something? Jez Corden is a really weird name. Not throwing shade. I just like Jez. I've never heard of somebody named Jez. Is it short for something, or is that like a nickname? I don't know.
Well, as someone who's done this for over a decade,
Jezebel?
you just start to build up sources, build up
that would make
connections,
sense.
and you just hear things. Now, I barely report on what I hear, not to be selfish with my information, but just because I don't need to stick my neck out and get burned. I know my job here. I like to report on things. I don't like to do scoops all that often. The only time I did was KOTOR Remake, and that was spot on because I knew it because I saw the game for myself. Now, this same source who had helped me confirm some of the KOTOR Remake rumors did come out to me and say Starfield could slip into the second half. Now, when I reported that, because again, that source has been rock solid, I was like, hey, again, it's a possibility. I never said it was 100% certain, and I always make that clear, not to cover my own butt, but to make sure people know that's what I was told. And a lot of people think, well, why would you say it without certainty? It's like, that's what I was told. And I felt with the restlessness of the community, they should know because information is power. But what I'm learning here as we go deeper into this rumor cycle is now it's spiraling out of control behind the scenes. Because I have heard all manner of...
Hold on. Hold on. I don't know for a fact. But I think Todd is wearing these shoes without socks. Or at the very least, ankle socks. Todd. Buddy. Who hurt you? With these shoes, you wear at least calf height. They should be touching your calves. And that's it. You don't wear ankle socks with shoes that go up above the ankle. Are you mad? Game development's really getting to him. He's cracking under the weight. You can tell. A sane person doesn't do that. Somebody out of their mind, outside of their mind does that.
Of months. And it doesn't matter which ones I've heard because that's the problem is they're coming from different sources. So you'll hear something upwards of April all the way to June and beyond June into November. And it's all over the place. If I am you, and I'm doing the same thing, by the way, as the creator, pull out of the Starfield release date rumors. You're only...
I'll never pull out. You can't make me, Matty. Stop trying to get me to do that.
Gonna get burned. It's just not worth it. Because as someone who's in the thick of the industry, I'm hearing 1,000,001 different things. And I just don't think it's fully worth paying attention to because the reality is no one truly knows. I think I have a great source, but what I reported can also easily be false. And I think that's the risk here that you take when you report on Starfield. If you're an insider, I would just say pull out because that's what I'm doing. I'm just like, look, there's too much uncertainty. There's certain things that you can do to kind of lay eyes and confirm and cross-confirm your sources with other reporters. There's times where that works, but with every reporter that I know of hearing so many different things, it is truly out of control.
Yeah, usually when you're hearing this many conflicting things with anything, it usually means that there's conflicting information going out, which again just means that nobody really knows. Like even the studio at this point probably isn't sure. What I would guess this means is that they probably have, like, let's say it's probably more than this, but if they say we have 1,000 bugs that we have in this little Excel spreadsheet, we are not going to settle on a release date, like until we reach this threshold. So say like we're reaching this pace, we're doing good, fixing these bugs, but we want to launch with only like maybe 100 or 150 small impact bugs that we can then work on and fix after the fact, but they'll be very, very rare and it's just not a big deal. But all of the major bugs have to be fixed. And let's say we're not going to settle on a release date until we reach 300, and that release date will be 2 months out because we can figure out, you know, maybe 150 of them a month. And then they just say that. Like, I'm sure they can do way more than that. I'm just throwing out numbers to be consistent. But what I'm saying is, my guess is that they probably have a threshold for where they need to be before they settle on a release date so that they know how much time they have to finish the rest of the polishing. And they don't want to announce that date until they're actually confident that they can hit that date. Because Todd's whole thing, since Fallout 4, he's been saying that they prefer to do the quick turnarounds where they announce it and within a few months maximum, they release the game. That's what they want to do. They want to avoid the crazy long announcements and hypes and everything, which has been very, very strange with Starfield that they seem to have gone the complete opposite direction, and this thing's been in the public sphere for years at this point, but still, it's interesting. Luke, come on, it just works. You can't question his sockless genius. He's probably wearing socks there, and it's just how his like pant leg looked, but still. Somebody just called me Steven. Yeah, it happens. It happens more than you would actually expect. It's actually kind of funny. People call me Steven a lot, which is, it's funny because I'm like, it's Luke Stevens. Like, I don't understand it.
And no one knows. Now, why is it that people are hearing different information? Well, because the release date isn't set in stone, different people have different interpretations of when it can be ready. This part of the game needs more work. It may be beyond the summer. This part of the game doesn't need as much work. It should be around June. I haven't heard those things specifically, but that's one reason. Reason number two is Xbox does have the final say here. This is their IP. I hope they've learned a bit from the launches of...
They're like... I don't know why that just popped in my head, but I imagine like the team talking about what they need to do to polish the game, and they're sitting at the board of directors or like the conference table, and they're going around and they're like, okay, so how severe are these bugs? Do we actually need to delay the game? And one of the guys like, yeah, we've got a really, really severe one that, you know, really messes with player agency and hurts their ability to choose what they want to do. It's like, oh, really? What's this bug? Well, you know, we have romance options in the game. Yeah, of course. Yeah, where you can like sleep with characters if you want, and your companions and things. Well, we've run into this bug where every time I play the game, my character ends up being gay, and I just end up sleeping with a ton of dudes. Like so many dudes. And it's every time I play the game. It's really weird. Like, does anybody else have this problem? No, it's just when I play the game. When I play the game, it's just so there's dicks everywhere. we have to delay. Like, Luke, I think that might just be you. I don't know why. I was sitting here and listening to him be like, yeah, the team's probably figuring out what bugs they need to work on. This part of the game needs more work. This part of the game needs more work. And I just imagine some dude in the conference room be like, yeah, every time I play the game, the guy ends up super gay. I don't know what's wrong. We gotta delay the game. I don't know why. It just I'm sorry. I find it really funny. Okay, I'll see myself out.
Say Halo Infinite, where you rush something out for the holiday window or to meet some type of arbitrary deadline you set for yourself.
Yeah, that's the funny thing with Halo. Halo, everybody now talks about it like it was rushed, but I'm pretty sure that game was delayed like out the ass. Wasn't it? It was delayed a handful of times, like a lot. Like a lot. And now people are like, yeah, they should have delayed again. Like, I think it was more that game was just never going to get it together. It's like that congressman, let's see. It's like that congressman who posted online screenshots of gay porn ads and didn't realize those are curated for your searches. Oh no, that's an oopsie. I didn't hear about that, but that's freaking hilarious. A guy's like, look, all of my Google ads are for like male sex toys. Google's filled with perverts. This isn't God's way. And they're like, you realize Google only recommends that stuff to you if you've like searched for it previously, right? All of a sudden, delete tweet. That does seem like something like a very, very good old boy from the South congressman would do, and then realize he just outed himself without realizing it. That would be really, really funny.
And you kind of hurt the game in the end of the day. I always say that Halo Infinite would have benefited from a significant delay again, and I do think the same for Starfield if it ends up behind the scenes that this game is buggy or broken. Another rumor that we will address in this video. But because they have the final say, that's really important because I think what's happening is these rumors are floating out from all different...
Matty's boob is out. His boob's out. This is something, I had a girlfriend in high school. She would always do this. She thought she was so funny. Like necklaces, the little clasp. Apparently some people call it a boob. I don't know if it actually is called a boob, but she would always call it a boob. And whenever your clasp of your necklace was out, if you wore a necklace, she would come up to you and be like, "Huh, your boob's out." I was like, it's really not that funny. Meanwhile, I just came out with a weird hypothetical story that I daydreamed about a game developer freaking out because every time he plays a video game, the character ends up gay. So I don't know. I guess we all have our own problems. That's not a thing. I didn't think so, but I swear to God, she would constantly say in high school, "Oh, your boob's out," and then she would like adjust your necklace for you. If you were wearing, or like somebody else she sees in the hallway, "Your boob's out," and the girls would freak out, and she adjusts the necklace. She thought it was hilarious. I was like, I'm pretty sure you just made that up. Pretty sure you just made that up.
Because that's how you find people who are leaking. You tell one person, let's say August as an example. When you start to hear the rumor pick up from August and you connect the dots, it's pretty easy to find out who gabbed.
Yeah, but with this, I'm sorry, Matty.
About August.
I keep pausing it at the worst time. Yeah, that you can do controlled misinformation to find out who's leaking stuff, but the company, like, there's so much made up crap right now where people are just saying, "My uncle works at Bethesda and he said that the game's coming out on Friday." There's so much made up crap that I don't think that would actually work. There is the one story from Elon Musk where they had a leaker causing all sorts of issues within Tesla back in the like early 2010s. And so what he did is he's like, they keep leaking our internal emails. So what he did is he sent out individual emails to like 1,000 people. The emails were identical, except that in different places throughout the email, they would add like 2 spaces between a word. And then in the next email, the next space would be 2 spaces, and then the one before it was changed back to 1. And they would go through the entire email and change the emails just by like 1 space, and you couldn't even tell by looking at the email which one was which. But they were all unique. And so then, when the guy inevitably leaked the email, he had just copy and pasted it into like an email, sending it to a journalist. And so they were able to then count where the extra space was, be like, oh, okay, we send that to Jeremy. Boom. Yep, there he is. That's the exact identical email. He's the leaker. And then they were able to fire him and like sue the crap out of him. It was pretty intense. Pretty intense. So you can do that type of controlled dispersion of information to find out who's leaking stuff. I don't think that's what's happening here, because I think that like just saying that the game is coming in June or the game is coming in March, that doesn't seem to be specific enough to actually track it back to somebody, but who knows?
August, because only one person knew the game might drop in August.
We're going to jump into Unity here in just a second.
Some companies will fish people out that way to make sure no information is leaking. They want that stuff shut down. When it comes to Bethesda game studios, they typically never let...
Will Shen, again, I insist, he looks like he's a great hugger. Doesn't he look like somebody that just would comfort you?
Anything slip through the cracks.
This whole stream has been very sus, hasn't it?
Fallout 4's opening script. We had Fallout 4's QuakeCon gameplay leak on a website that shall not be named here on this family-friendly website. We also had, of course, Starfield's early gameplay screenshots leaked. So there have been numerous leaks from them, but they're few and far between, and it's not something like Ubisoft or EA where you can count on it every single year. So Bethesda typically is doing a good job keeping those things hush-hush, which is why I think the rumors are so hard to trust for them. And again...
Yeah, I mean, the overall premise is just don't buy into the speculation and the rumors, because as of right now, there's no reason to really believe any of it.